Hey everybody, and welcome to a new video where we're talking about the volume profile. Now, if you're using a volume profile with any type of a professional charting package, there are a ridiculous amount of settings and inputs that you can have or that you can customize. And so in this video, I just want to bust open my charts. We're going to look under the hood of my intraday profile. I want to show you just how I have that set up, and then specifically drill into 9 important settings that you need to know for your intraday profiles. Okay, let's just jump right into it. We're gonna pull up in a chart so we can drill into the intraday profile. Now, there are 3 different types of profiles that I use. I have the intraday profile that we're gonna be looking at today. I have composites and I have micro composites. So for the sake of this example, what we're gonna be drilling into is specifically the intraday profile, which is not gonna be these larger micro composite we see. This is going to be the smaller intraday one. Okay, so of all the settings, and as I said in the introduction, there are just so many different things that really gets like minutia. There's just so much here that you can change, that you can customize, that you can have. Most of these are just preferential. They don't really mean anything. They're not going to change anything. But there are a few settings, 9 to be specific, probably more than that, but 9 we're going to look at in this video that you need to know about. And if these are different, things are just going to be happening different for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing we want to look at is the ticks per volume bar. This is really the first thing that's going to be important. You can see here that it's set to 1, and it really needs to be 1 because if you change this, maybe to use an extreme example, let's say 5, the profile change. Okay, if you just paid attention to what happened, the value area has shifted. The point of control has shifted. It's just in a completely different place. The point of control being this magenta line that just runs straight through these profiles. The value area being this gray spot, and then blue being outside of value. But this gray area, you can see where the high and the low of that is. You can see where that point of control is. But if we were to drill this back down to 1, where I have it, you can see the profile and see it change. That point of control has shifted higher. That value area has shifted slightly. And it's really important for these intraday profiles to have that to the tick data. Your data needs to be to the tick, not bulked in by the second. And then it also needs to be set up in your profile settings where it's not 2, 3, or anything like that to help cut down on the data usage, but it needs to be set to that 1, or the profile that you're looking at is not going to be accurate and the information is just going to be different. A good example, like with what happened today where we went neutral, is there was times where leaning against the extremes of that value area was really important, and especially taking it back to the point of control. That's all going to be skewed if this is not set up correctly. Okay, so to start off with number 1, the ticks per volume bar, that's going to be really important that that's there. Okay, just kind of going back down the list here. The very next setting is going to be actually very important. Very important because there are so many options for how you can have the graph period type. And it's really important to set this to multiple profiles from start time to end time. This is how I have it set up. There's a lot of things that you can do here. But the way I want these intraday profiles to be is I want them every single day to just start a new one. My composites and micro composites are set up differently. But for the intraday, I want every single day to just start a new profile. And the setting that allows this to happen is multiple profiles from start time to end time. That'll be significant. Now, with that setting being significant, the start and the end time is going to be number 3 because that has to be set up a very specific way. The start time I have set to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, and the end time is set for 4:15. I have it set for 4:14:59. But that's just me trying to be a fancy boy. It's going from 9:30 till 4:15 at Eastern Standard Time. Okay, what this will do, and the reason that this is important to me, is all I'm seeing right here on these profiles is the regular trading hours. This is important because the S&P 500 is virtually open 24 hours a day. And I have other charts where I can look at 24 hours, just the whole session with no breaks. I have charts where I look specifically at just the nighttime data. But on these charts and with these intraday profiles, I just want to see what's happening during those regular trading hours. And I'll be drilling into that. I was doing something with a furnace a second ago, I just realized I have a lot of soot in my fingers right now, and I'm like going at the camera. I don't know if you guys have even seen that, but I'm sure I look super ratchet right now. If I've been flinging my dirty nails in your faces, you guys will forgive me. Okay, back into the profile. I'll keep my hands down here. The start time and the end time, those need to be set up in a specific way that's very important to me, and this is how I have it set up, okay? Kind of just going down the list here of what other options we have. The next thing that'll be very important is maximum volume bar width type. Okay, we have a few things we can do with this, but if you kind of see how those profiles are, if we were to change it to say window width, it just makes everything completely messy. So there's a little bit of a balancing act here between the way that we have this set up and then that width percentage. So we want to make sure that we get these right. Because if you have this too tight, if you to use an extreme example, if this is set up for that maximum volume bar width to be 5, it's so thin that you can't really distinguish what is a high and low volume areas. It's just the information is not very clear there. But if we build it out and it's too thick, the very extreme example that we just saw, but even this right here, it's not too bad if the full screen is just your one chart. But when you put this in as I have my charts set up, there's a lot of charts in one screen. It just becomes very messy. You can't even see what's going on. So it's important that you play around with this and see what exactly is going to work for you the best. The way that I have it set up for mine is it's set to automatic, and then I have it 35 as that max width. That gives me enough to where I can see what's going on, but not so thick or so thin that it gets messy or that it becomes irrelevant what's happening. Okay, the very next setting is actually really important to me too. The right aligned volume bars. I think by default, a lot of times they're set up on the left, as you can see with this switch. But once again, when I have multiple things on my chart, especially my very short time framed charts, and I say short time framed, I don't have very many charts that are time framed, but my drilled in charts, if I were to have the profile on the left side, I would have to keep drilling back and scooting my charts back to even see what was going on with the profile. But when this is set up, and I can show you a better example here, when this is set up on the right-hand side, then as the day is developing, the most recent action is right on the actual profile. But this would be the chart that we were just looking at, and it would be very hard to see what was going on if we had that set up on the left side. Okay, so that's a small setting probably, but it's actually very important. And I think by default, most of the time the profile comes on the left. I always prefer to have it set up on the right. Okay, excuse me, just kind of going down the list here. Displaying volume in bars, this is another setting that I opt to have as a no. I see a lot on profile charts where people have this on. This is just going to show you at every single price exactly how much volume is going off. So if we really drill this in, you can just see at every single price that's traded, it shows you not just graphically how much is traded, but actually to the number exactly how much has traded at each one of those levels. The reason I don't have that on there is, one, that's not important to me at all. If somebody needs to know at every single price exactly what's traded, then that's them just trying to be a fancy, and it's nothing really. Okay. The other reason is most of my charts are kind of set up a certain way, so it would end up just being an awful mess. And there's quite a few things I feel that I have going on my charts. When I'm looking at my charts, they're very simple. And I think from an outside view, my charts might seem like they're kind of noisy or that there's a lot going on. But most of the things that are going on are just important stuff that I've actually put on there or that I've drawn on there. And so it all makes perfect sense to me. But this kind of stuff, there's so many options of things we can throw on there. If it's not important information, I do not want it on my charts. The displaying volume inside is just a noisy piece of information. I don't like it. I don't keep it on there. Okay? So display volume in bars, total volume. Okay, just continuing down, the next thing that's important is to highlight the value area. This will probably come by default. I think mostly the value area for volume profile is always highlighted. But on certain days specifically, the value area is going to be very important. I've mentioned it already, but it's the gray area right in here. I also have the value area percentage set to 68. It's supposed to be between 68 and 70%, and I have mine set to 68. It's not a huge deal. It'll probably change the value area on fairly active sessions. It'll probably change it by like a tick. And at the end of the day, we're not so specific with our pricing where a tick makes all the difference in the world. But I have mine set up to 68. Highlighting that value area is going to be really, really important. We'll have that set up to 68%. Okay, so those two different settings there. Now, the extended point of control is on most of my charts, it is set up this way. On this one specifically, this is a 15-minute chart. I don't have it set up that way. On most of my larger time frame charts, on even my trigger chart, that naked point of control is going to be extended. Okay, so the extended point of control is what we would call a naked point of control. So if I can just put this up until further extended, you can see here that this line kind of showed up. If that's off, that line kind of disappeared. What that is a couple sessions ago, this point of control has never been revisited yet. So if there's a point of control that the next session does not get tagged, or until it gets tagged, it's called a naked point of control. And so if we extend that out until further intersected, what this setting will just do is this line will just keep showing up until we come and we revisit that. It's very nice to understand where those naked point of controls are. There's a few reasons why I'll use this, specifically on even some trade setups where there'll be certain days where I'll expect that price returns to the previous point of control. So I don't have it set up on this 15-minute chart because I have several charts that are displaying the intraday profile, but on other charts that I have set up, this is going to be a fairly important setting right there, okay? Now, as far as all the other settings that go, I'm kind of scrolling through this right now, and you can see and you can pick out, and if you would like, especially if you're using Sierra, just kind of seeing how I have this set up, you can feel free to mess around with some of these settings the way that I have them and see if they work out well for you. But most of these other things are just going to be things that are preferential, nothing that's that important. And maybe one other one that I'll throw in as a bonus. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how many we've covered, if we're at 9 or if we're over, but let's just say that this will be a bonus one. I have the I have the volume going at the top of the profile. This is a setting that you can do with Sierra, I'm sure other charting packages, but this show chart values on the profile, and I have this set up to where the position is on the top of the graph. So there's only a few things really displayed here. The volume is the first thing. Chart value 1 to be displayed on the profile is going to be that volume. And this way I can just see through as the day is progressing, just kind of like one little snapshot of just seeing total how much volume is going on. So on a session like today where we had over 2 million contracts traded, which is absolutely insane, this is very nice to know. When we were looking at this as the day was developing, it was like 700,000 contracts traded fairly early in the day. But based on the price action and several other factors, we knew this was being volatile, we knew this was being active. But I always like to be able to see just how much volume is happening. It's also nice just looking over several days in a row, if I was to zoom this in a little bit, and just be able to see how that volume is going across the day, just in total, whether volume's drying up or whether it's really ramping up. An example like right now, it is really been ramped up. Okay, so that's a little bonus one for those of you who stuck around to the very end. And those are 9-ish settings that are very important for the volume profile, and a quick look at just all the other settings, how I have this up. You can pause the video if you'd like and copy those as they are. Okay, I hope that video was helpful, and I hope that maybe that helped cut through. I know that if you're fairly new to this especially, the settings and all of this can be very overwhelming because certain settings just change things around. And so I hope that gave a little bit of clarity through a lot of iterations, through a lot of changes. This is how I've had my profile intraday specifically set up for a very long time, and it's what I find to be the best. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. You guys can let me know down in the comments if you found that helpful and if you like more profile videos, or if you have a setting that I haven't covered that you think is very important. You guys can let me know that as well. I'll see you guys in the next video. Let's all hit that like button on the way out, and I'll talk with you guys very soon.